demented framework to treat mental illness. So, what hopefully I intend to identify is that, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, I think this ideology created by Freud ruined the world for one clear reason: ruined the world culture. Now, this is why I think so. Freud himself acknowledged that the black man and the white man have different psychologies. We think differently. We're just different. Um, so why is it that the common standard for psychological and psychiatric treatment, to my understanding, is based upon Freud's ideology? It don't fucking apply to us. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, who was a board certified psychiatrist, said that. She said this shit don't even apply to us. So what was it about? We're gonna dive into that. In addition, I went in reverse. We're gonna beg the question, as a continuation of yesterday's space. What European culture would the United States miss? Which European culture is essential to the common fabric of America? Is Polish culture essential? Wani, would would we miss Polish culture if it disappeared tomorrow, or would we even notice it?
You know what? Slavic culture. The Slavic people have come over here and basically, tucked themselves under being English, except if they're Russian. Then they have the same kind of refusal to tuck under type attitude that we discussed before. Is really they just don't want to assimilate into what it means to be English or be white. They are white and they want their white privilege, but they can't, they just can't stand because they have so much pride in their country and a lot of other uh, ancestral reasons why they don't feel inferior, even though they don't have a dynamic culture. Um, in terms of food or sports. They got kicked out of the Olympics a million times for cheating. So they want to be these things, but they're just not able to do them. So no, I don't think we would really miss Slavic culture. Um, so we could say Eastern European culture. We may miss sausages or snossages, as one
I
like to
thought
call them.
sausage was German.
Yeah, that's why I said Eastern European, not Slavic.
Oh, got you.
So, see, they're benefiting from the Eastern European culture, but they didn't, make sausages and sausages. Dogs like sausages, people like sausages. They didn't create those. I like vegan sausages. I have them every day almost. Thank you.
Well, I just want to be clear, and there are some people in the backwoods of Alabama and the hills of Kentucky who actually like sausages. So,
Uh-uh.
people eat sausages too. They're not supposed to, but you're also not supposed to eat your roadkill. I know people in Selma, Alabama, who will hit a deer and say, "Boy, don't waste that meat. Give it here. I'm gonna go ahead and fix it up and cook it real good." It
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
it tastes musty. That's a whole nother story.
Musty, that's it.
Yeah, it tastes like somebody
Is that gaming? Gaming?
gamey, musty. It tastes like it needs some deodorant on.
What?
Yeah, I don't fuck with it. I don't fuck with it. Well, well, back to Sigmund Freud. Uh, Sigmund Freud identified. Well, first and foremost, let's look at the Europeans' ethnogenesis. The European culture emerged shortly after the Young Adrias. Now, the Young Adrias is a name of a flower. It's a younger Adrias and an older Adrias. The younger Adrias is a flower that only grows in freezing cold conditions. The last time it grew was during the last ice age. So, um, geologists and archaeologists name the last ice age the Younger Dryas because that's the only time the flower grew. Well, we can trace European ethnogenesis to the Younger Dryas for some reason. They would basically emerged out of this cold, unforgiving climate wherein masculinity was valuable because in cold weather you need people to be able to cut wood, and testosterone becomes more valuable than estrogen. So a lot of psychologies emerged in European culture in the Caucasoid Mountains that just do not apply to us. Listen closely. So like I said earlier, masculinity is a value in cold temperatures because a man has more physical prowess and can fight predators and build stuff just out of raw strength. So one psychology that came out of European culture is a devaluing of women, which we see to this day. And a praising of the strong male figure. Another one, and I could go down a long list, but I'm not going to waste your time like that. But uh, another one that came out was two things according to Freud. In that cold climate, the European mind, according to Freud, created two main values. He calls it Thanatos and Eros. So Thanatos is a death instinct. Like you got to kill shit. You know what I'm saying? You got to be prepared to kill your neighbor and eat them because it's so freezing cold you might starve to death. So there goes your cannibalism. Kill predators, kill bears and shit because you living in caves. A bear might come in there. You got to kill them. And Eros. Now, in cold weather, you only have a very short window of time to get your lady pregnant or get somebody's lady pregnant. So a baby can be born I said somebody pregnant because in European culture, they had the opposite of polygamy. I keep forgetting the name of it. I think it may be polyandry. Somebody correct.
Polyandry.
Polyandry.
Polyandry and polyamory.
Yeah, like that means like five and six dudes had one wife. That's wild, but that's the European culture. In a lot of ways, the real truth about European culture is so what's the word? I'm looking for a professional word. It's
Dumb.
well, it's so riddled with issues that there's
What's
a need of
what's
projection. Go ahead.
what's the benefit of five men with one? Nobody does it like that. That's
Right.
incorrect. Animals don't do that.
That's what I'm saying.
It's all the women and one guy that beat up all the other guys.
Well, the
So
one
his powerful sperm of knocking the other deer out can be the father of that season.
That's a very interesting question, and it's come up before, so I actually have an answer for it. The issue is affording a woman in that type of cold climate. Women were so expensive, to feed, basically, literally, to cost food, and they were so expensive to feed that it was more cost efficient, more efficient for the men to just, five men to just share one woman, according to Dr. Joseph Ben Yakinen. So they would just share one woman, which is that's their culture, and that's there's a lot of shame involved with that culture. But my point of bringing all this up was that's where these drives, these psychological drives of Thanatos, I need to kill, and Eros, I need to procreate. That's where all that rape comes from. That's why I'm light skinned with curly hairs, because that Thanatos, I mean, that Eros motivation was on the fucking killing fields of Alniani, Alabama during the slave trade. That Eros, you see. Now, I'm not here to examine just to examine European psychological history. What I'm trying to explain to y'all is that ain't us. Our ethnogenesis comes from the uh, Niacin, I think. It's a different time period full of abundance. Just fucking meat running around everywhere, pineapples and shit growing out the ground, abundant fish, just food everywhere. So that creates a mindset that's not based upon Thanatos. There's no need to kill. Why would you kill when food is everywhere? I mean, like fruit and things to eat is everywhere. And Eros, there's no rush to have sex to get anybody pregnant because it's warm during the Nicene period. It's perfectly warm, damn near tropical most places, and people are abundant. You didn't really need clothes, if you want to have sex. Just hey, how you doing? Hey, girl, what up? It's people everywhere. So we have two different mindsets evolving, and Sigmund Freud focused on the dominant society's mindset and applied it to everybody. And in brief, in short answer, that is why the motherfucking world is so fucked up. It's because the official venues of society, school, medicine, a law, is looking at things through the eyes of a European who, honestly, given their real unique ethnogenesis, don't see things like everybody else. Would you agree with that, Wani?
And he is a special kind of European. So
Right.
let's set the stage. This man was being hunted by the Nazis, the Third Reich, and he was a sexologist, right? People may not know that, but he was right up there with all the other sexologists. He was associated with this area, Bohemia, which was known for art and, hanging out, being different than the straight laced people, just a whole nother, like a counterculture type of thing. And he was in there hanging out with these people. He smoked 20 cigars a day. He wrote the book about cocaine. He snorted cocaine. And
Facts.
cocaine is a substance that was isolated by a German chemist named Albert Niemann. And he was basically, during his life, he was heckled by people. Like, they were like, no, when he started talking about women wanted penises, and he just broad brushed everybody. Women want penises, and you want to have sex with your mom. And people were like, no, we don't. So he really believed this, that this was everyone's thought process, because he had some little thing going with his niece and probably was drooling over his own mother. So he felt like everybody's doing that, but everybody wasn't doing that. So um, he's dubbed the father of psychoanalysis. Now, he was followed by a man named William Wright, who was also, uh, well, this guy was Austro Hungarian Ashkenazi, and he was Austrian Ashkenazi. Anyway, they were pushing sexual liberation. They said if we don't have sex and just let it all hang out, we're going to be repressed, and society will fail to progress. So they all felt, this group, this bohemian group of Jewish people, felt that we had to have sexual liberation or we'll be all pent up and a society won't progress. Them, along with this Frankfurt school, which had the same attitude but less focus on sex, they just said they wanted freedom from conformity. And they were challenging a lot of political ideas. So here they are, being chased by the Nazis, because the Nazis did not want them around. Now, another buddy of theirs was another guy who had a facility that did gender change operations. So they didn't like them. So here we go, a whole bunch of people of the same background, Ashkenazi Jew, doing everything in Germany that no one wanted them to do. People didn't want them to talk about sex. They didn't want them to talk about girls wanting penises. They didn't want them to change sexes of people. They didn't want any of that. And so they burnt that institution down. And I'll do the next part later. They burnt the institution down, burnt the research, burnt the books, and tried to run Sigmund Freud and others that believe like him, Freudians, out of town. Okay? Pause.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dr. Michael Bradley, a European man who wrote The Iceman Inheritance, a good book. I would get it while you still can before it becomes banned. That banned book list is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Anyway, I digress. Dr. Michael Bradley identifies it straight up on page 26, where he says, "Nor not intelligence, nor morality, nor spirit, but aggression." Bless you, baby. But nor spirit, but aggression is responsible for the white man's superiority. He says aggression is responsible, bless you, responsible for the expansion of Caucasoids both geographically and culturally at the expense of other races. So this is aggression. Aggression comes from what? Thanatos. That's what Freud identified. Ladies and gentlemen, black Americans, I want y'all to really conceptualize something. Conceptualize that a very abnormal man from a very abnormal culture, with all due respect, is applying his cultural norms to the rest of the fucking world. That's called insanity. And we're following these cultural norms. Um, I'm I've saw a counselor before for several things, preemptive counseling, marital counseling, and stuff like that. Premarital counseling, we're talking about getting married, all that stuff. And I got this person charging $100 an hour telling me, "What's your relationship with your mother?" Da, 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 da. That don't apply to me. I'm black. I'm black American. My whole ethnogenesis is totally different than somebody who was created or evolved, or whatever word you want to use, during that young Dryas. And that needs to be addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another reason we need to delineate. We need our own psychological theories. Dr. Amos Wilson said we need a theory of education that applies only to black people, because our story is different. Nobody wants to hear it, but our story is totally different. So Wani brought up sexual adaptation. Dr. Michael Bradley on page 150 says, if we further accept the argument, hold on, let's go before that. He says, if we will accept tentatively the argument that territorial behavior in the dimension of time must cause ambivalence towards sex and reproduction, and if we accept the corollary proposition that aggression and frustration result from this ambivalence, then the identity of love begins to take shape. So Michael Bradley, PhD, says that during that young Dryas, during that cold period, there were problems with love, like there were higher priorities. Now, what am I? This is kind of a hard concept to roll with, so let me break it down. Uh, According to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, the creator, when he created men in the brain. You cannot get an erection, and this is, we all grown in here. It's, you cannot get an erection if you're scared. If you're afraid that you're going to lose your life, according to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, MD, she said it's damn near impossible to get sexually aroused as a man. And Dr. Wilson said the reason for that is, if you were able to get sexually aroused during a time of fear, that creates a conflict of interest. So basically, Dr. Francis Chris Wilson said that the creator created man to, if your life's in danger, sexual engagement becomes secondary. Like, shit, let me get out of here. I ain't worried about, getting none. I'm getting out of here. And that was by design. So Michael Bradley takes that shit a step further. He says, I'm paraphrasing him, during the Younger Dryas, during that cold glacial ice age where the European came from, or the Caucasoid, whatever word you want to use, it was filled with so much danger and so much hunger, so much fear, that sexual arousal was very difficult amongst men. That's a light bulb right there. Dr. Bradley says, argument that Western man suffers more sexual reproductive aggression and frustration due to glacial adaptations conflicting with sexual ones. That's what Dr. Welsing would say 10 years later, is a European male. With all due respect, I'm not trying to be pejorative here. We're just being real. Due to those cold climates and that young dries, during, not knowing if you're gonna live, die, have to eat your neighbor, not knowing that, sex was put on the back burner. So sex, let me be real careful with this. I'm gonna be codified. Y'all read between the lines. What Dr. Bradley and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing saying is procreative. Let me say that again. Procreative sex became a chore. I have to do this to stay alive. Whereas procreative sex in our world was a treat. And God damn it, it still is.
Yep. Yes, that is really something. That is some hell of a research. So, the last time I left off, Freud and his little sexology buddies, they were Marxist sexologists doing sex changes, and Hitler didn't like it. They were run out of town. So, the story picks up over here in America with this program called MK Ultra being run by yet another Hungarian Ashkenazi, Austro-Hungarian, Hungarian, uh, and he is called the poisoner in chief. This man gave a lot of people that were under a guess what? In Freudian hospitals. They believed in Freudian techniques, mind control techniques. We're going to get to that. Freud was into mind control. So they used his techniques with MK Ultra, and this doctor had access to prisoners, uh, uh, psychiatric hospital patients, and also random people that were hanging out because this was around when hippies started to hang out. And so you have a lot of social unrest, and they're, doing this diabolical experiment on people. They start to put drugs into these communities, and once people found out about them being drugged, that's when it even made the hippie movement even more angry, and it made people very distrustful. But what we had on the street, thanks to Freud and his buddies, was a lot of uh, people that came out of hospitals, because again, these hospitals kept getting into trouble and kept having to be shut down. So now you've got people that are psychiatric patients hanging out with hippies, hanging out with people on drugs, hanging out with traumatized veterans, hanging out with former prisoners who nobody wants to be around, hanging out with street kids. All of these people are the roots of a lot of the homeless population you see today. It's not just about being homeless. You see, it's really about being not wanting to participate. It's not that they their house burned down and they had some bad luck. It's really become a lifestyle and not just having bad luck. People just don't want to. They don't want to be in the shelter because they get assaulted there, and they don't want to be. They just made their life outside in the street, and anyway, oddly, that MK Ultra shaped the drug culture that we see. A lot of different organizations that we don't really know about, but we do know about some. We know enough to know that MK Ultra was exposed for drugging people. And then they had these programs with Timothy Leary talking about tune in and tune out and all this stuff, telling everybody to get on drugs. First, we have we have a whole book by Sigmund Freud telling everybody to use cocaine, and then they're back again for round two to literally drug the public and get everybody on drugs. Again, they're determined to get everyone on drugs. Who are these people? Well, they're immigrants. Sigmund Freud is not from here. The
Facts.
rest of these Hungarian Ashkenazis and these Austro Ashkenazis and these German Ashkenazis, they're not from here. They're immigrants. What do they care if Americans are on drugs, if Americans fall apart? They don't care.
Well,
It's
Wani,
really
I
not
would take
them.
I would take it a step further. Given the fact they're immigrants from a hostile land, in my view, it would be their interest to make sure the United States of America falls to pieces. I think, to paraphrase our brother Mark Carter, I think these ideologies were cooked up to destroy the fabric of our society. Ladies and gentlemen, never forget that a country is made up of people. People are made up of what? Families. I may be saying that backwards. A country is made up of families. Families are made up of people. And if you destroy the family structure, guess what you did? You fucked the whole country up. America was at her strongest during World War II. What do we have during World War II? A mom and dad in the house, for better or worse. You had a mom and dad able to survive off one income. You know what I'm saying? And y'all can say all, our feminist colleagues can say all this rigmarole, yeah, up and down all you want. But the fact of the matter is, during this time period, American economy was stronger and the American system was more secure. So what does that mean? What the English say, the proof is in the pudding. But I interrupt you, Juan. You can go ahead.
I just wanted to roll it back a little bit while that whole Holocaust situation was happening. Uh, guess who was over here saying you better get a big old bomb because that's what Germany's going to get? Well, Albert Einstein urged Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to develop nuclear weapons because he said the Nazis were going to do it. Uh, Einstein is Jewish, another foreigner, German Ashkenazi. Also, the person who directed the Manhattan Project was a German Ashkenazi. So the Germans, Ashkenazis, ran over here from the Holocaust and made the big brother America make a big old bomb for them to stop it. Now, sure, we could argue that it wasn't just for them because Hitler was trying to take over the whole world and Mars, but they still are in the middle of it. And you just have to ask yourself, why? Why are you calling our president telling us what to do with respect to you? So, okay, so you see, we're setting a stage of them doing things over in Germany and Hitler not liking it. And then they ran over here and said, hey, help us. We're getting jacked up. Make a big weapon for us. And here we go. Now, I'm going to pause it there and we'll pick back up.
Yeah. Um, this is
But
kind of
cliffhanger.
this is a dangerous direction, Wani, because if you look at ideologies that have damn near destroyed American society, such as communism, you see the common thread that you mentioned. What is a common? What's the commonality between Albert Einstein, Sigmund Freud, and Karl Marx? What commonality do we have? So it does make you wonder, what's that really about? But I'm gonna leave that alone. So Sigmund Freud, his research was based upon, like we said earlier, European psychology, which has absolutely nothing to do with the black or melanated psychology.
Anybody, really.
Anybody. I was watching um, TV today. I woke up a little early and I was watching TV, and I saw a real, what do you call it, like a real Hollywood, not real Hollywood, the show ID Discovery, whatever, where they have criminals and stuff like that, and it was a European man, maybe in his 40s, in a jail cell talking about how he killed his mother. And he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but he said he had glasses on, he looked prim and proper, and he was like, "Yeah, I came home and my mom was on the bed reading a novel like she'd done throughout thousands of times before. And I went to bed and I woke up and mom was still on her bed flipping through her novel. So I walked in the room and I said, 'Hey, mom, how you doing?' And she said, 'Oh, Lord, you must want some cookies again, huh?' And he said, 'No, mom, I want you to go back to bed.' And when mom dozed off and went back to bed, I killed her. And I thought that you would never hear a goddamn black man saying anything like that. That's a different psychology. That's a psychology I cannot comprehend. My aunt June, the lady who raised me, was the first black nurse practitioner in the state of Alabama, and it's a whole story behind that. I might write a movie script on, because she looked white, but she was black, and uh, she went to nursing school, the Catholic Church sent her to nursing school for free, because during civil rights, they said black people have to go to school. She went end up going to Tulane, a really good school of nursing in New Orleans, through the Catholic Church. And it's so fun. It's such a beautiful story. I'm gonna write it for a script or something, a movie script. But the whole time, her and her friend were in nursing school, nobody knew they were black. I'm from one of those families where some of us can pass, but that's not the point. The point of me bringing this up is June was talking about when she was a nurse practitioner at an unnamed place. She was at a mental facility, and she said it was a young Caucasian boy that was 4 years old that kept getting committed because he kept trying to burn his mom and dad up. Like, this was a rich, well-to-do family, cute little blonde child, cute little blonde, perfect looking, perfect according to society. Y'all know what I'm saying. BMW driving parents with a little boy that would wake up in the middle of the night, go get some lighter fluid, and just douse it on mommy. And when daddy was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He was like, "Daddy, stop. No, no, no. I just want to see mommy burn. You don't hear these stories with us." And I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just talking about we're going to have to get to the point, for better or worse, where we acknowledge that we think differently. Our minds have different, just like our bodies have different qualities. It is my opinion that our minds are different. Now, the reasoning behind that, I don't know, but I know we're different. Which,
Now,
go
That
ahead.
same story, I was reading up on that today. He said that after he killed her, he decapitated her, and he chose to humiliate her body.
Oh, you saw that too. Yeah, he had
Yeah.
I didn't want to go that far, but shit, since you're going there, let's do it. After he decapitated his mama's head, he had air quotes relations with the head.
was
That's
that? Wait a minute. That sounds just like that super tall guy that was up in Northern California. He was a serial killer. He killed his grandparents and they let him out of jail. Then he cut his mother's head off, raped it
yeah,
after he
he was
raped everybody in the neighborhood.
right, right, right,
Is that
right.
him or some new
Yep.
guy?
That sounds right. What do you think, Nikki? I turned it off when he said he had relations with his mom's head. I was like,
It could be
That's when I
something.
I can't take it in my spirit no more. I turned
that's
it
when
off.
I stopped reading too. Yeah.
Now, let's continue. We got um, another issue. So they had this free love movement inspired by being on drugs and Freudian concepts. And we have this guy named Al Goldstein, a Russian Ashkenazi. He was running around getting arrested for being indecent. So he went to court and fought for free speech, which meant that he could normalize pornography all over America. So here we go again. Al Goldstein, a Russian Ashkenazi. He took advantage of the fact that we were going through a free love period. And let's just segue just a moment to talk about the rainbow and how that got taken. So, this guy, a Methodist minister, made like a rainbow peace sign, and another guy made a peace symbol. And so the hippies started using this really old flag that was like a world peace flag. And at the same time, Black Americans started using, they were calling themselves a Rainbow Coalition in Chicago, and they started having rainbow symbols as well as Black Pride buttons. So they were using these symbols, and Black Americans were saying, Black Pride, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. All of a sudden, 1 year later, after they started doing that, the Pride Parade began. The Pride Parade, after we said, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, all over the place. They even wrote a song about it. Had buttons that said Black Pride. Now they have to have a Pride Parade with a rainbow symbol that both Black Americans and the hippie movement used. And they turned the attention away from racism and civil rights to sexual identities. And that
Preach,
was,
Wani,
yeah,
preach.
and they turned it right away. Now, this man, Al Goldstein, made some magazines titled Screw, Gay, Bitch, and Smut. And so, I mean, I can keep going for a moment. The next phase uh, are the Freudian advertisers. German Ashkenazis again, Freud's nephew, and others in the same vein started using psychological triggers to manipulate people into buying things that they don't want. They romanticize things. They romanticize you cheating on your husband. Oh, you've got to have a torrid love affair.
Facts.
You got to have some cigarettes in your mouth. You got to look, cool when you're smoking. Because at a point, women were smoking, but they were hiding it. So just think about it. If smoking is considered crude and you have to hide, you're not going to smoke as much. So they said we have to glamorize the cigarettes, have the women on movies puffing and blowing and holding the cigarette. So they got everyone to smoke. They created a lot of characters that were narcissistic, that were adulterous, that were into material things. Everybody had to have a fur coat. If you didn't have a fur coat, you're a loser, right? If you did not have this fancy car, you were a loser. You're going to pressure your husband to get you that diamond ring. You're going to pressure him to get you a fur coat. You're literally, these women were stealing fur coats, doing anything to get these things, and totally tanking their families, ruining their families. Also, alcohol was being advertised and pushed as well. So they were hell bent on destroying you at any cost. They also made uh, anybody who was interested in going to school and not acting like that, they would call them geeks, nerds, dweebs, eggheads, and they made all of the criminals look good. The villains, the mobsters, rogues, bikers, the gangsters on West Side Story during those days, they made them look good. And they made everybody who was trying to be, a clean cut feel stupid and like an outcast. So this is again the Freud effect, permeating commercials, permeating movies, triggering people to do things they don't want to do, making people literally get STDs. Just go out and have sex with everybody, lay in the street, right? People became diseased, infertile, obese. They were addicted to different foods and drugs and alcohol, and they were in debt because they had to keep up with the Joneses, which is what they set up. They set up keeping up with the Joneses. People were purposely ignorant. They put all these stupid characters on TV to make them, make ignorant people look like they were the cool people. And they're responsible for a lot of people going to jail, as well as people being dead from lung cancer, including Sigmund Freud, who got oral cancer and died a terrible, terrible death. He asked to be euthanized. He was in such agony.
Wow. Well, we earlier we talked about Nikki. Do you or Wani? Do you remember the guy's name so we can give somebody a point of reference? That serial killer I was talking about who cut off his mom's head and then had inappropriate relations with his mother's fucking
I'm
head.
going to go look him up real. I think it's something with a C. Hold on.
Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen, look, I want to really bring home a point on how Sigmund Freud ruined. I have ruined the fucking world, but particularly ruined the socio the structure of the family according to like institutional structure of the family. He gave too many he applied a psychology that has nothing to do with us. Now I use that abnormal murderer, serial killer who murdered his mom
Ed,
for
his name is Ed Kemper.
Ed Kemper. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I used him as an example for a reason. Dr. Michael Bradley says, now earlier, those of you who weren't here, I elaborated on European Europeans came from the Younger Dryas, the last ice age where life was real cruel and violent, and you had little time to plant plants, to have a babe, to get a girl pregnant. You had little time, just predicated in violent. Everything was violent, right? Even the cold. You think about it, cold is violent. It'll kill you if it's too cold. Well, basically, I'm gonna paraphrase Michael Bradley because he talks PhD talk. What I understand Michael Bradley to say in his book is all of that aggression, all of that violence that the in the Caucasoid Mountains that the European had to um, exhibit to survive got crossed up. Like Neely Fuller said, sex is powerful. Sexual emotions are powerful. Um, those lines kind of got crossed, and violence became sexualized. If that makes any sense, Dr. Bradley in his book said the courting. Now we'll stop right there. When he says the courting, he's talking about Europeans during the Younger Dryas. He says the quote: the courting partners began their relationship by aggressive sparring with each others, with fighting motions directed towards each other. So Dr. Michael Bradley is identifying during the Younger Dryas, fighting people and drawing blood was like made people sexually aroused. Now raise your hand if you think if you apply violence and drawing blood is sexually arousing within melanated communities. I bet you not one hand's going up because that's like holy shit. That's the opposite. You know what I'm saying? That's like, like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said, violence, according to melanated people, when violence come up around a melanated man, the capacity for sexual arousal is gone because that's a conflict. Well, Michael Bradley is saying during the Young and Dryas, it was the opposite. Drawing blood was sexy, right? He says, with fighting motions directed towards each other. But as courtship progressive, the aggressive moments are directed increasingly to the side of the partner until eventually the courting pair find themselves side by side with their combined aggression directed outwards. The aggression has been displaced in a very literal sense by the movements which can be measured until the pair stands together in a small place free of aggression or threat. Emanating from either towards one another. Michael Bradley is saying that basically, to my understanding, that aggression and violence during the younger Dryas became sexualized, which is not black. It's not even melanated. We don't. I would go so far as to say, if I may speak for the group, we don't view violence as sexy. But hell, what do I know? What do you think, Seven Ward? Do you think my analysis is incorrect? What are your thoughts, bro? Seven Ward, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
You
Yeah,
good?
I just wanted to add on about Sigmund Freud. I believe his nephew's name was Eric Bernays,
Hmm.
and Eric Bernays he started the business of what they call public relations, propaganda,
Wow, I didn't
and
know
he
that.
and he was the guy who started the advertising campaign to get women to smoke, and he also was involved with the CIA and overthrowing governments throughout the world. So yeah, Freud's fam. Yeah, Freud. Man, that's I'd be here all day if I told you everything I knew about Freud. But I'll yield the mic.
Go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, we want to know. That's it. Like
Is there
let's
more?
build.
Yeah, it's
Is there
well,
more?
a lot of what Freud believed is pseudoscience. Children they go through what he called it the oral,
Psychosexual.
anal,
Yeah.
latency,
Yeah.
phallic phases. I mean, this is bullshit.
Yep.
He and I've heard that like he was misogynistic beyond belief, and and other things, like his drug use and everything. I mean, but the guy, so in terms of, he's one of the most cited people
Right.
in history. Along with some other penny hoarders like Marx and Engels, and
Other charlatans. Yes.
and
Maybe he's being elevated because he is doing something good, like manipulating people's minds. And even though the rest of what he said was a bunch of BS, maybe they're just giving him kudos and keep bringing his name up. Go ahead, Seventh.
oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's propaganda. I mean, how why do these people keep getting cited in academia when well I know why Marx and Engels were, because their names were mentioned every day in the newspapers in the communist country. So that's probably why they're so widely cited. But a guy who I really don't hate this guy. I actually was an admirer of him. I don't like him so much anymore. Was Noam Chomsky. Uh, so he's also widely cited in academia. It's just like this. How should I say it? It's like this propagandistic circle jerk they got going on.
Right. We know what it's about, but we're not going to say it on MySpace. But we know all you got to do is look at the commonality between all those people, and it becomes real clear what this agenda is about. But what I like about what Seven, one thing I really love about what Seven said is a lot of what Freud said was fucking pseudoscience. It's dangerous, which is the point of this space. Is to let y'all know that Freud had a whole bunch of opinions. It's a lot of what we call science, and I'm just going to be really blunt with this. A lot of what we call science is hypothesis. Seven, would you agree with that? It's theory.
Well, things that haven't been elevated to theory, you could call them high hypotheses.
Or maybe I used the wrong word. A lot of things we call science is theoretical. It's not it's factual. It's theoretical. Like,
No
well,
theories.
well,
No,
correct me, bro.
in
Correct
terms of
me.
hierarchy, theories are what you want because theories are the explanation of the facts. So theory means that it's explaining things. So that's not necessarily a bad thing.
But I guess where I'm getting, and you're a science, your area is science, so you know more about this than I do. I'm a social scientist, but you're more of a hard scientist. But where I'm going with this, Seven, is Europe. Is it possible to see a problem do two different ways? Is it possible for two different groups to be right?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of give an example of where that's happened.
Go for it.
Okay, there is the Ptolemaic epicycle theory, and then there's the what we now know as heliocentrism. Now generally accept heliocentrism now because it's pretty much obvious we're all revolving around the sun. But back in the day, you had the Earth-centered universe called the Ptolemaic system, and where they would predict the position of the planets and the stars using what they call epicycles. And it was pretty good. But eventually, Galileo, he pretty much proved that we revolve around the sun. And that's how we now predict the planetary motion. So I guess that's two ways of leading to the same answer.
Yes, sir. Dan, thank you for that. Brilliant. You're very brilliant, and that brilliant, those brilliant examples. And what I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is a lot of us as foundational Black Americans, as melanated people in general, see things differently, and it doesn't mean we're wrong, but we're being force fed this ideology by a cokehead lunatic. That, in my opinion, I think the facts could support me that Freud's ideology with the family does not fit us. It's just not us. I'm not in love. I love my mother, but I'm not. I don't have an inappropriate affinity for my mother or my sister. Freud had sexual experiments on his own children. I mean, why are we following this guy? And last but not least, Seven brought up Marx. Karl Marx was Luciferian. Karl Marx was, according to Dr. Jordan Peterson, if I could paraphrase Dr. Peterson, was obsessed with Lucifer. He was obsessed with Faust, Mephistopheles. If I'm saying it wrong, somebody correct me. I always say that wrong. But Faust was about the story of Lucifer, and Karl Marx's favorite quote was out of Mephistopheles. It was Lucifer's quote, which is all living things deserve to die. And upon further examination, Dr. Jordan Peterson examined that communism is about letting people die. That's what it is. It's about fucking killing people, like saying that you have the right to be homeless, that type of crazy shit. And in my opinion, you see communism more associated with the Democratic Party. They're associated with communist ideology, particularly Kamala Harris's ideology. And Joe Biden was, in my opinion, more aligned to communist ideology. And if you go to liberal, and I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, don't get me wrong, but I'm just calling it like I see it. When I go to Democratic enclaves, I see Karl Marx's ideology playing out. I went to California. I got interviewed for a job in California, making a little over $100,000, and was like, "Woohoo! I'm rich." Couldn't even afford to live there, so I didn't take the job. 100 G's wouldn't get me an apartment in Los Angeles. Well, anyway, when I was in Los Angeles, kicking it for a couple days, I noticed the sheer amount of homeless people there. Like, all you got all that money, all those fucking Ferraris, and you got people starving on the street. Some of them were children, for Christ's sake. That's your communist ideology. And I thought back to what Marx said: all living things have the right to die. Yeah, that's what that ideology is. It's close to Luciferianism. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to know what we're looking at. Cash Gains, educate us right quick, bro.
Mm.
Sheesh. I was gonna say I'm trying to take notes, but you gotta slow down, Professor.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
gonna
Uh,
reread.
w-
I'm gonna
I raised
reread.
my I raised my hand on the point that I think you were alluding to about hypotheses. I remember when I learned the scientific method in school that that was the first step in even starting an experiment. Is you have to look at what have a direct observation and then make a hypothesis and try to either falsify it or prove it to be true. I'm looking at what Wikipedia says here. It says the scientific method involves careful observation coupled with rigorous skepticism. So that's why I thank you for having this room, because it says a hypothesis is a conjecture based on knowledge obtained while seeking answers to the question. And I think what you were alluding to is what some of these people's backgrounds might be, and how that might influence them creating a hypothesis that might be based on pseudoscience. I don't know how we got to talking about the heliocentric versus geocentric, but I think that that's what you were alluding to. So I just wanted to big up that point. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And to put a pin in what Cash Gaines brilliantly said, two groups of people can see things two different ways. And you know what I'm saying? Let's look at music. Music is highly mathematical. But Miles Davis went to Juilliard and he dropped out of Juilliard. And when asked why he dropped out of Juilliard, he said, quote, that place was too white for me. And when asked to elaborate on that, Miles Davis, the greatest trumpet, some argue, I believe he was the greatest trumpet player. Him and John Coltrane were the two. Well, no, I'll say well, John Coltrane didn't play trumpet, but I would say Miles Davis is the greatest trumpet player, one of the greatest trumpet players of all time. Miles Davis said that the European, I'm paraphrasing him, but he said the European way of approaching music is he said that Europeans are afraid of the note. He says they walk up on the note, they creep up on the note, and they touch the note. They act like they're afraid of it. He said, whereas foundational Black Americans jump on the note, grab the note, and just tell the note, take complete control over the note. But now that's a scientific approach to
Sounds
music.
like sex.
Yeah, but yes, and if you listen to Miles Davis, it does sound like sex. You listen to John Coltrane, it sounds like sex listening to that. You know, it sounds like something dramatic,
And they
man.
don't approach it that way, and that's why they're not, um, women don't really deal with them. They
Damn,
just,
that's a good observation.
I think
yes,
James
yes.
Baldwin said that.
What did James say?
He said the reason why black people sing with so much soul is because, we're trying to, you know, be sexual about it as opposed to the Europeans and stuff like that.
This sounds like we're talking about.
Exactly.
It sounds like we're talking about different things, but everything Wani and Seven said, and I'm saying, and Cash said, it's all related. Like going back to Michael Bradley, remember what he said about sexual relations? He said during the Young Adrias, like that, all that conflict, all that violence confused their mindset. They got things kind of tied up. There's a lot of fear tied up in that. Whereas during the Niacene, during time period when we were, I don't know when we were created, but the time period when we flourished, it was, it was more warm and, just warm embrace, embracing ideas, embracing your female, embracing your man, and to see where this goes. Like Davis said, take the note, jump on the note, grab the note, take that note where the fuck you want to take it. Um, you know, as opposed to Miles Davis saying European culture just runs up on the note and just is afraid of the note. Just let me touch the note just a little bit. Let me touch it. Just touch it, touch it, touch it, touch it. Black Truth, what are your thoughts on this matter?
Salute Professor Allen. Salute Wani. I saw Sister Nikki in here earlier. I'm not sure if she's still here, but salute to everyone here in the room. Just wanted to touch on a few things. Which European culture would America miss? I would say foundational Black Americans wouldn't miss any of them, but the white supremacist obviously would, because that's essentially the only way that they can maintain their numbers, importing, new European immigrants in here and classifying Arabs and all kinds of other groups as white when we know they're not genetically white at all. So yeah, there are people who would miss them, but definitely not foundational Black Americans. Nor would we miss other immigrant groups who come here and have nothing but disdain, hatred, and contempt for us. But anyway, the last part, I'm not very familiar with Sigmund Freud, but from what you have been talking about, he sounds like a sick, depraved lunatic. And I want to point out that, especially when it comes to psychology and the study of like the mind, the study of which is psychology, I guess, but sociology, a lot of these things are pseudoscience. A lot of these things have been debunked. Remember Dreptomania,
Yes.
the if you don't want to be a slave anymore, you're now, you have a mental condition. That's
Right.
not right. You should really be a slave. That was backed up by scientific data, so they would create these pseudosciences, Darwinism, which turned into social Darwinism. And so there are many sciences which have been debunked, and which theories are used to just pretty much maintain the system of white supremacy. So I just wanted to point that out. And I did have a quick question. I was going to message you through the back channels, Professor Allen, but for some reason I wasn't able to. The place you mentioned the last time I was up in West Memphis, that the place with the, I think it's something Pops.
Oh yeah, Wade and Pop.
Is
So Black Truth, I
Yeah,
just sent you a follow black back. I don't know why, but some of the power players on here, including yourself, and including Brother Mikhail, people who are like powerful. Somebody is it's not me. Somebody's
Right.
unfollowing.
I know they do that.
It's unfollowing you. I just looked at your thing when you said that, and I wasn't following you. Now I definitely had you followed, so I just followed you again. I don't know why it's unfollowing people. It did it to Mikhail too. So
oh, okay.
yeah, buddy, it wasn't me.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I was just gonna ask you if it was FBA owned. That was it. But I
It
guess I'll message you through the back channels.
I'm pretty sure it is. I yeah, I'm gonna look into it and then I'll DM you on that.
Sounds good. Well, peace to everyone. I'll go ahead and drop down.
Appreciate you, Black Troop. Now, Black Troop brought up a
Yeah.
really good point. I wanted to address. Oh, I got it. It came back to me. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to kind of introduce y'all to Sigmund Freud and his ideology because it's permeated in a lot of things we deal with every day. And I'm gonna just go ahead and sum it down before we go to European culture. Um, let me just sum it down. If y'all want to keep talking about that, you
You
can.
want
But
me
I'm
to do a summary of what we covered so far?
yeah, go ahead and do a summary because we got new people. Go.
Okay, so first, Freud and other sexologists were urging sexual liberation as a key to social progress, and they were doing sex change operations, and they were chased out by the Nazis. Their ideologies and things ended up over in America because they really had nowhere else to go, or they could hang out in different enclaves in Europe. The next phase was Einstein and uh, urged the president to create a bomb so his homeboys wouldn't get jacked up any further. And Oppenheimer, pay attention to the names. Einstein, Oppenheimer came over and, well, he was here and he made a bomb. Uh, Next phase, you got Sidney Gottlieb, who drugged the community through a program called MK Ultra, targeted a lot of vulnerable people, veterans, people in hospitals, people in prison, and all over the place. And then we end up with a very big population of people drugged and blended in with the hippie movements and the free love movement. Um, and these Freudian aligned institutions basically got caught up in scandals. And they just were, their attitude was, okay, well, we can't do anything with these people except abuse them. They just let them out, worse off than they were when they went in there. There is no treatment for mental illness, and there has never been a cure for mental illness. They have no cures. It's just a bunch of talk. You could just talk to someone you trust, um, and they don't do anything except their old techniques were to hold you down with restraints and tranquilize you, and they really haven't uh, improved since then. They just basically tranquilize you. Then we get to the next one.
Facts.
Goldstein starts putting hardcore porn into the society because of the free love movement, making an environment so he can sell a lot of porn. And then we get to the advertising and all the manipulation and then tricking people into buying things and daring them. Oh, keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, your wife needs to have a fur coat. If you don't have a diamond ring this big, you're not a good husband. Just psychological games done by Freud's nephew to get people to buy things they can't afford, compete with their neighbors, everything negative you could think to do. And of course, smoke till you get lung cancer, pushing cigarettes in the Torches of Freedom campaign. And that brings us to some more theories. This man named Magnus Hirschfeld, he was a Freudian sexologist, and himself and some academic psychiatrists and legislators endorsed queer theory. And that was a theory that presented gender as a social construct. So they said, you're not really a boy or a girl. It's just that somebody told you to wear pigtails and told you to play with a truck. And so they view it as though you didn't actually have genitals. And they operated on that premise that we all know is false. And from that, they went on to uh, perfect the sex change operations. Another man named Harry Benjamin, a German Ashkenazi, founded the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, and he set international standards for hormone therapy between 1940 and 1980. Uh, and then we can go down to the next step. Radicalized by Freudism and Marxism, feminists, yeah, feminists pivoted away from the suffragist victories of voting, education, and owning a home directly to the condemnation of traditional families. So, whatever
There it
fits
is.
those Freudian thought processes is to go away from social norms and go for being free to have sex with everyone that you want, do whatever you want. Maybe they are practicing that doest thou wilt, as thou wilt.
Hello.
And Freud is definitely in those groups. He's in those groups. He's has a huge occult book collection. Him and all of his friends believe in occult things. And I actually saw his desk, and it was filled with a bunch of idols and stuff like this. Now let's move down to Margaret Sanger, eugenicist. She married a man named William Sanger, a German Ashkenazi, and she was a heavy follower of Emma Goldman. And this woman, she co-founded Planned Parenthood and advocated for contraceptives. She was also a bitter racist and said that Black Americans or Black people shouldn't have children. Um, that moves us to Gloria Steinem, Betty Friedan, and Emma Goldman again, who emboldened these radical feminist ideologies based on Freud's and the sexologists that never went away. Never went away. They were run out of Nazi Germany for the behavior, and they just popped up with their ideologies over here. And that brings us to pretty much today, where you have all of these women with the same background as the people we were speaking about before. They introduced gender neutral language and they said non binary. People are they, them. They're partners, not husbands and wives, partners. They have to be chest feeders, human milk givers, and birthers, birthing bodies. Um, they put out petitions to ban the pronouns he, she, mother, and father, and added a prefix cis to men and women. And that brings us to one of the last things was James Oberfell, a German American, married John Arthur, a Jewish American, in Maryland. Now, that union was not lawful in Ohio, where they were wanting to live, and so they won a court case so that they could be the first same-sex. They could, well, they so that they could marry nationally. So same-sex people. Here is the same group again, needing to do this This cannot be a coincidence. It's the same group keeps popping up in all of these uh, activities that actually go against what we want in America. And it goes toward, it's a death cult because it everything they're talking about is about death.
Right. Tie that in.
Nothing is about living. It's all about death.
All about death. All about the opposite of creation.
From cigarettes to abortion, everything they want is a one-way ticket to die. And then
Wow.
so one further chunk, intellectuals endorse education on puberty blockers, mastectomies, genital surgeries, masturbation, and pedophilia as a sexual preference. And they got away with it. This is all Democrat stuff. Authorities, and these are the same groups of people. They're Freudian people with this sexology mindset that we need to get away from uh, normal activities. And here's another one. Authorities defended explicit pride parade performances, and the drag queen story hour was founded by a woman named Michelle T, but her real last name is Tomasik, a Polish Ashkenazi.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wani just said a whole bunch of uh yeah. Oh, I got to open some. A whole bunch of comparison, and she said, if you read in between the lines, you'll see the similarities, and a story will start to emerge of what might be going on. You know what I'm saying? Why is death being peddled by these groups again? If you look at Karl Marx's family history, his dad converted to Christianity, but Wani, do you know what his dad was before he converted to Christianity?
Who, Karl Marx?
Yep.
What was he? Rabbi?
Yep, you got it. And Karl Marx, ideology, you said do with thou wills. Karl Marx said all living things deserve to die. Communism at its core is the basically the celebration of death. Let them die. Fuck them. Let them die. Let me. You look at Karl Marx's history, he was really looking for a way where he could sit around. He was a really filthy slob. He was so nasty that he didn't refuse to wash, and he had infected boils on his face. History says that he had an infective boil on his upper lip that smelled so awful that I forgot they called it, but it was real, had a real nasty smell, and he was real mad because it was close to his nose. Well, how about you wash up, motherfucker? But Karl Marx was looking for a way to not do anything and make people pay for shit for him. So you get imbeciles in our community like W. E. Du Bois say, "Well, I'm gonna make everybody Marxist." Like we need to, number one, we need, the point of this space basically is to kind of shake and wake foundational Black Americans so that we understand. All of us kind of have an understanding that these ideologies were not formed by people who have our same value system. Now, Sigmund Freud's value system, I think he was an absolute wacko. But you know what? Being a wacko in his world may work for him, but being a wacko in our world don't work for us. We need to find, and this is not me, this ain't Professor A talking. This is me carrying on the message from Dr. Amos Wilson. He said we need our own theories of education. We need our own psychological theories because we're living in a world and based on theories that do not fucking apply to us. I don't know what it's going to take to get that through our head.
That's
Uh,
interesting about the not bathing because when I was continuing the research on Hitler, he didn't want to bathe. And I associate not bathing with, sometimes it's associated with insanity. A lot of insane people don't like to take baths.
I think it's something involved with Satanism, right? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far, but uh, a lot of these
Yeah,
people are Luciferians.
it could have something to do with that.
I know. Karl Marx, according to Jordan Peterson, was Luciferian, and you got these damn fools walking around talking about, "I'm a communist." Anyway,
They just like labels. That's why that gender stuff was so popular. They could just run around with a, oh, I'm this sexual, I'm that sexual, I'm this, I'm pan, they could just run around having a field day with these little People like labels. They really do. I just noticed that.
It's escapism, which is part of the movement of foundation of delineation, is because we're trying to teach our children to be proud of who we are. We have the best history on the fucking planet, so we need to embrace who we are because we've been trained to escape who we are. For instance, to brag on that Japanese, I went to, let's just say I went to school at some point with a foundational Black American girl whose grandmother, like her grandmother was part Japanese, not half, part Japanese. And this girl, and she was a pretty girl too, pretty little chocolate thing, but would get up in class and brag, my grandmother's Japanese. Like, that's escapism. Like, foundational Black American, the condition we're in is we're all mixed. We're an amalgamation of different things. Duh, look at us. But we've been trained to focus on something that's not black, and exaggerate that or brag on that. Well, in addition to bragging on that Japanese grandmother, part Japanese grandmama, or that Indian granddaddy or whatever, another form of escapism is ideology. And Dr. Welsing talks about that ad nauseum when she talks about Marxism. Dr. W. Du Bois really, and he's my fallen brother, but you know what? Before I wrote my book and went on Spaces speaking against W. Du Bois, y'all know I actually visited his grave to say I'm sorry and make my peace with what I'm gonna have to do, because W. Du Bois caused a lot of trouble. I think he meant well, but he caused a lot of trouble. W. Du Bois, aside from entering that talented 10th bullshit that created Al Sharpton and people like him, T.D. Jakes, and the fearless leaders that's gonna lead the Black community where into the trash can. W. Du Bois said that Marxism was a way. What I'm telling you, according to Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, is Marxism is escapism. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing says the attempted escape into Marxist doctrine falsely comforts some blacks. And she says, as it did Semites in Europe, she says, in escaping this doctrine, they are conceived that there are some whites, the workers, who wish to unite with non-whites out of a supposed common interest. They further believe that these whites do not function under the white supremacy necessity, the global fear of white genetic annihilation by the genetically dominant non-white that governs the survival psyche of those who accept the classification as white people. Though they have no proof that listen to this. She said, though they have no proof, they, the black people, have no proof that a significant number of whites exist. Some blacks persist in the following Marxist doctrine in order to avoid the fear inducing awareness that blacks and other non whites are and have always been weak and vulnerable in the context of the global white supremacy system. It's running away and escapism. I'm not black, I'm Marxist. You see, I got Marxist white folk on my side when there has never been evidence that Marxist white people have ever been on your side. Madness. When we gonna wake up, ladies and gentlemen? If you want to speak, raise your hand. I lost track of who was. I think Sotar was first, but y'all let me know. Go ahead, Sotar. I think your hand was first, bro.
I was just gonna say real
I didn't
quick.
even put my hand up, but
Oh,
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry. Go
cool.
go ahead. Go ahead, Wani, and
I
then
was just gonna
Sotar.
say something real quick. First, these people immigrated to Germany and tried to alter their culture and make them do things that they didn't want to do, sex change operations, weird enclaves, doing all kind of things. And then when that didn't work and they were chased out, not learning a lesson from the Holocaust, they came over here and pushed those same ideologies over here and have gotten away with it, have gotten us to a horrible, horrible point that has been embraced by the Democrats that I can never vote for them again because of those ideas.
Yeah. And like I said, I agree with that, Wani. And like I said earlier, from my analysis and the analysis of Dr. Jordan Peterson, who I don't follow him wholeheartedly. I don't like all of his rhetoric, but some of his stuff is spot on. Um, Points out that the Democratic Party does show an alignment with Marxism, with communism, and it has very dangerous ideologies. Does that mean that the Republican Party is the way to go? Not necessarily. I'm not a political person. I'm a scholar, but I am calling it like I see it. I think we dodged a bullet with Kamala Harris. In the jumbotron, ladies and gentlemen, you'll find Nikki the Gods Cash App and Onthespotts Cash App. If y'all like what I'm saying about the history of foundational Black Americans, I wrote a workbook jam packed full of history, according to several scholars, some of which I mentioned, some of which I haven't. It's raw truth with essays and uh, diagrams that you can work through with your children, your family, to understand the system of white supremacy. I wrote this book while a professor and administrator at a historically Black college, and I wrote it to defend defend Black students. If you're interested in the book, put $25 in my Cash App and put your full address, and I'll send it to you Monday when I send another. I got a big order going out Monday, so I'll send more. I'll send it with that order. Now we're gonna go to Sotar, and then we're gonna go to looks determined.
Uh,
Um, Go and then we'll go to cash games. Go ahead, Sotar.
yeah, hey, Wanda, you were talking about the free love movement and everything like that, and with
Mhm.
the '60s, and Tariq brought it up, but you see it in that movie, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin Tarantino. I don't know if you saw that, like
Yeah.
the mamas and the papas,
Yeah.
the dude who killed, I forget his name, Charles Manson, all that
Yes.
stuff. It was all that was the big theme with it. But it didn't click in my head until you said something. Tree said something years ago when it came out, and so all that psycho psycho programming, I didn't realize it came from the '60s, but it came from those Europeans originally.
Well, let's just think about it. Do random hippies outside have access to make LSD? Somebody is giving people things. This German chemist gave everybody cocaine. I mean, we're getting attacked. I mean, they're putting it out as, oh, yeah, man, don't you want to party? And then the next thing you know, your life is in a tailspin. We don't have the ability to make these things, and we keep getting trashed over and
Preach.
over again, just like paper bags. Oh, you guys you're killing trees. What are you doing? Do I manufacture paper bags? Do I have a lumber company? Does anyone in here have a lumber company? No. So they decide to put your groceries in a paper bag and then cuss us out for using paper bags that
That
you
shit, Wani.
manufactured.
That shit happened to me the other day. Now I try to keep my undergrads away from that computer screen for reasons I've discussed on Spaces, and I make them write papers on real paper. So to give them assignments, I'll print some shit out. I got in trouble for printing too many pieces of paper, and an administrator, my department head, was like, "Professor A, you need to stop." Using so much paper because you're going to destroy the forest. Use the computer. And I told that fool, I said, sir, I said, I'm a professor. I'm not an environmental attorney. Trees are not my concern. But I was thinking exactly what you said. Like, how dare he put the onus of destroying trees to me when the trees that I'm using were already fucking destroyed by somebody who didn't look like me? This shit is madness.
Manufacturers are making paper and paper bags and putting your groceries in them and then cussing you out on the side and telling you you're a horrible citizen for using the bag. And then we said, okay, we'll use plastic bags. Right? Now, I don't have a plastic bag manufacturing company. Does anyone in here have a plastic bag manufacturing company or a plastics company? No.
Nope.
And so they make all these plastic bags and they put the groceries in them. We say, okay, everything's fine. You wrapped up all the food in plastic. My everything that I buy is in plastic. You give me my groceries in plastic bags. Then we use plastic and we get, you're destroying the climate. Plastic waste. It's wrapped around this duck's head. This is all you.
But that's that Luciferian doctrine, blaming the victim. You're the victim. You are forced to use these cruel instruments, and you're forced to, and then you get the blame for it. It's insanity. We're in
They're
a
trying
backwards
to
world,
kill us. They're literally trying to drive people insane. So,
right?
climate change is a joke. Climate changes. That's what it does. Ever heard of the
Hello.
ice age? It's gonna change. Who in the hell told you that the temperature outside is guaranteed? Who? When? Where? We're on a spinning ball in space. I don't know what is going to happen, and neither do the scientists. No one knows what's going to happen. We don't know if we're going to be hit by an asteroid or if we're going to have another ice age tomorrow. And you cannot be blamed for the climate and paper bags or plastic bags that they're manufacturing. If you
Preach.
don't like those materials, then you go twist your mouth over to the manufacturers and tell them what type of material to put our groceries in and leave the public alone.
But that's part of that pimping, that ideology, that Marxist doctrine, that uh Freudian doctrine of blaming the goddamn victim. Um, in conclusion, if I may just wrap this up in a paper bag or plastic bag, you pick what bag you want me to wrap this motherfucker up in. Um, these people don't think like us. Like Kendrick Lamar said, his song applies to Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is not like us. In my opinion, Sigmund Freud was a goddamn lunatic. And we got a goddamn lunatic teaching us how to be normal. Black people, make it make sense.
And
Hey,
professor,
Professor One.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Jordan Peterson also said it's a big failed social experiment that men and women shouldn't be working together, right? I listened to him say that like a couple years ago. But regardless, with the separation of the family, and that coming from, I thought it's from the Operation Paperclip at Columbia University, like you mentioned. Wouldn't it be, wouldn't you maintain the cell? Would you initiate the separation of the family by having women work and being able to buy houses, so then they don't need a man because they're like, I don't need a man because I can vote, I can have a house, I can have credit cards, I can work. So why do I need a man?
Well, that's a really interesting issue you brought up, Sotar. Since you bring it up, I'm gonna address it. I think it is related, but I think based on the research of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, and basically the research of several people, including Welsing and Dr. Michael Bradley, himself a Caucasian. You remember what I said earlier about Dr. Bradley saying that uh historically, I'm paraphrasing Dr. Bradley, historically Europeans had a problem with intimacy, and um if you have a problem with intimacy, it's logical to deduce that you are having a problem procreating, right? That's an issue. So look at things through the terms of a chessboard as warfare. We have no problem procreating. Like Miles Davis said, we grab that note and we tell that note what we wanted to do, and we're sexy with the note, and the note makes other notes. Somebody got that metaphor, but anyway, that ability to procreate real fast is a threat to the dominance of the other system. So I think what you're looking at is somewhere in Nazi Germany, somewhere with the group of people that Wani identified, they realize, oh crap, we're in trouble because these people are going to make children faster than us. So it was in their best interest to come up with ideologies to destroy the ability to have children, B, the facility in which to raise a child, which is a family unit. I think all these attacks are related to warfare. The black family has been target number one before I was born, before my mother and grandparents were born. The black family has always been the target, which is not okay with me. But that was a good question. We're going to go to cash gains, and I think it was looks determined. Cash Gaines looks determined and rob the whip. Go ahead, Cash.
dang, I was trying to pull up chapter one of Howard's End. Go to the text for texture, right, Professor? But let me
Yes, sir. I got it if you want me to find
yeah, it's
something.
the part about encomiendas. because what homie was just speaking to about people being worked to the point that both genders have to work, and then it leads towards like an exhaustion that leads towards less birth rates. That was
Yeah.
used against the people on the island of Hispaniola, like early on. So
Wow.
it's a full circle if you look
Did
into that
Zen
further.
talk about that?
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm looking at the part right here, but he kind of jumps over it. But I remember reading into Encomiendas further because of Christopher Columbus's personal journals. I can
Dude,
post the video.
when you find it, Cash, DM that to me. That book's so full of so much stuff, man. Like you just if you skip one sentence, you miss like a
I used
so
to listen to the
much.
audiobooks all the time, for real, for real. But I wanted to
Wow.
mention something else, germ theory, because we're talking about theories and stuff. Germ theory is called a theory because we can't directly observe it, like
Mm,
gravity, a couple different things, right? According to science, but it can be indirectly observed through other scientific observations. But germ theory, in my understanding, wasn't something that came out into the year 1900, at least amongst the European community. And I wanted to read from what it says right here on the Wikipedia. Basic forms of germ theory were proposed back in 1546 by Guillermo Fracastro and expanded upon by Marcus Poulenches in 1762. However, such views were held in disdain in Europe, where Galen's miasma theory remained dominant amongst scientists and doctors. And so I'm bringing that up because Galen is someone who's famous from Greek times, right? Which can tie us full circle to what's bro's name, Sigmund Freud, right?
hmm.
Now, Greek tragedies, because I studied ancient history and geography in college as a double major. The Greek tragedies, in my understanding, were all about exaggerating um, tragedy so that you can have catharsis and then live out your life being happy that you haven't had it as bad as those stories that you saw. So there was a lot of exaggeration that happened, even in the story of Oedipus Rex. So for him to
Right.
use that exaggerated story as a complex for humanity in modern times, I'm trying to make the argument like this: he's living off of a telephone game, but the Renaissance was really I don't want to say a plagiarism, but a misunderstanding of the classics. And that's where I say Oedipus Rex was a misunderstanding. Him trying to like uh, um, make it make sense in psychology is really just because they're really standing on very small shoulders instead of the shoulders of giants. They were trying to reach back really far, but misunderstanding it. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah, and you're right. And really, let me wake that up. What you're looking at is Europeans, oh, according to, if I could give you some scholarship, Dr. George M. James in Stolen Legacy, I'm paraphrasing him. A lot of these stories were stolen from what is called the Library of Alexandria, named after Alexander the Great. We don't know what the fuck that library was called, but a lot of these stories were stolen and misinterpreted through the eyes of Europeans who, again, have that ethnogenesis through violence. Just kill, kill. What did Freud call it? Eros and Thanatos. Thanatos means kill, like Thanos in Endgame, kill, 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 kill. Eros means to they say it's erotic, but I'm gonna say rape. That means to rape, 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 pillage, rape, 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 rape. That's the psychology, you know. So you have stories like Cupid. Dr. Ben Joseph Ben Yakinen talked about this at Cornell. He said you have the story of Cupid, right? Um, and you got a little naked boy angel. You want to know why that? That's a whole nother story. Why is that? Why is that little boy naked? Y'all know what that's about? I bet you could guess.
And how
Uh,
did cherubim go from being tall guardians of the gate to naked babies?
it has to deal with certain ideologies that were alive and well in Europe. Y'all can guess it. I'm not gonna say it on this space, but y'all know what the little naked little boy is about. But what does he do when he says you fall in love? The falling in love involves death. You gotta what does an arrow going through a heart have to do with love? It has absolutely nothing to do with love. But if you read Michael Bradley's The Iceman Inheritance, you understand it has everything to do with love through the eyes of a European,
Their version.
their version, because during the Young Adrias, they got confused. They thought violence is love. Look up Caligula.
That
Caligula,
explains a lot of the serial killing And it's
Hell
based
yeah, they
on
in
sex and violence.
violence. I'm in love with her, so I'm going to kill her. That ain't us. What
Bundy was
Kendrick?
in love with those brown haired girls. He thought they were attractive. They looked like his previous girlfriend, and he killed them all.
Yeah, because he was in love with him. Those lines got confused during that young Adrias, for Christ's sake. And we up here trying to emulate these people. We the ones that's crazy. That ain't got shit to do with us.
Hey, Professor,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Hey, you said something about the Avengers, like what you were saying. Thanos' brothers, heroes, in the
Right.
and so yeah, you know the Star Fox. But I realized with the end game, like you were saying, Thanos kept saying people were suffering. He didn't want people to suffer like he did as a kid, and so he wanted to cut half the
Now you see
population.
it.
Yeah, so
Now you
then,
see it.
so you pretty much talking about the Avengers versus Thanos was pro-life versus pro-choice.
Well, the writers of Endgame were smart and they knew the story of Sigmund Freud, and there's also some Luciferianism in there. You remember Karl Marx said all living in uh Faust, Mephistopheles, Lucifer said all living thing. Basically, Lucifer, according to Faust was a fucking genius. He said he interpreted the story of Lucifer, and he said Lucifer was an intellectual who went crazy, and he said that Lucifer was like basically the creator, God, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, God, the Lord, whatever the creator, whatever you want to call him, he creates. Life is about creation. Things are born and reborn and born. That's the purpose of life, is to have kids and have grandkids, and plant flowers and have puppies, and it's all about things being born. Well, in Faust, and things living and flourishing, and Faust, Lucifer and Faust said that life is cruel because it's unpredictable. You don't know when you're gonna die. You don't know when your dog's gonna die. You don't know. So the in the Luciferian sense, the best thing to do is just to kill everybody at once. And that was Thanos in the movie. He was playing Lucifer. Life is so cruel that I'm just gonna kill everybody. And you see it really well in that scene with his daughter where he's like, he kills all of them. He's like, it's so cruel. We don't know what's gonna happen. People are starving, so I'm gonna kill everybody, which is fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it's insane. But back to the point at hand. In conclusion, we're following ideologies. Black Americans, we need to urge your children, urge yourself, go back to school, get a master's degree, go get a degree in psychology, develop your own theories of psychology. Because what I'm telling you, as somebody who studied educational psychology and is licensed in a lot of these different things, these psychologies don't apply to black people. They don't. I'm not in love with my mother like that. I love my mother because she's my mother. I don't, I- you know, I don't believe violence is not sexual to me. That's violence is like the opposite of sexual. You know what I'm saying? So, in conclusion, I just want to let y'all know that Sigmund Freud made a lot of these ideologies normal, made insanity the norm, made violent ideologies and ideations the norm when they're not the norm for us. So in my view, walking around trying to be a normal guy, have a family, a wife, kids, and not getting, not be violent from my view, is kind of abnormal. Would you think that? Does it seem that way, Wani, to be? Does it seem like normal is abnormal? Or am I tripping?
Well, like I said before, everything that they like ends up with you being dead. The homosexuality is something that doesn't cause you to have children or procreate, and it can lead to HIV and kill you. Irresponsible sex can lead to STDs and kill you. Drugs can kill you. Alcohol can kill you.
Bungee
Making
jumping,
nuclear
bungee
bombs,
jumping.
making nuclear bombs can kill you. Everything that they were doing, it's a death cult. Everything that they stand for, abortions, pushing abortions, can kill you. I'm not saying that, I was 100% against every type of abortion, but they propose these as birth control, contraception, and abortions, birth control, and death.
That's
Everything is about death.
totally. That's so wild, Wani. Abortion is a form of birth control. That's insanity. Wow, and I'm not judging. I believe a woman has a right. If y'all want to know my beliefs, it's a woman's body, her right. But in my
But see,
household,
they're pushing that along with the irresponsible sex. So they're saying
right?
you're sexually liberated. You can do anything you want, and the women are like, oh, wait a minute, I could have 11 children doing what you're saying. Okay, well now we have birth control and we have abortions and we have the what's that other one that uh the pill that you could take. They put things out there so you can continue to have this sexual liberation thing that we pretend like we didn't aren't still having. They put that out there, but you can still get a disease and die. So no matter which way you do it, something negative is going to happen to you.
Yeah, sexual liberation at what cost? Never forget what Lucifer said in Mephistopheles. He said, "All living things deserve to die." I can remix that and say, all Americans have the right to be homeless, like Reagan's ideology. But that's another space. We're gonna get a couple more speakers. Let's go to. I think looks determined was up. Let's do Rick looks determined, Rob the Whip, and the Black will have last words. Go ahead, looks determined.
Yeah, look, man, I appreciate you giving the mic. What about guns, man? That's like European culture, from the AK
Hel-
47 to the AR 15.
Hello. Oh shit. See, Wani, we're getting through to him. Y'all are starting to see.
More death, and just like the pushing, the overeating. Hey, look at this food. Isn't this triggering you to want McDonald's 10 times a day? Eat, eat, eat. Oh, now you're obese and you're dead, and you're using all the medicine that's also going to give you a side effect and kill you. And guess what? Smoke some cigarettes. Those are cool. Look how cool you look. You look like you're in a 50s movie. And oh, by the way, you have lung cancer, and you're going to do what? Die.
Well, bro, let me y'all get out your pen and paper. I'm gonna give y'all some rare scholarship because looks determined reminded me of something I knew as a little boy. My daddy told me from serving in the serving in the naval intelligence during the Vietnam War era. The AR-15 that was called the M16, but it came from a guy named Stone. I think his name was Leon, the white engineer named Stoner. That was his name,
Eugene
Stoner.
Stoner, Eugene.
Eugene Stoner. I thought it was Leon. Eugene Stoner, and Eugene developed the Armalite 15, the AR-15, as a weapon to end all wars. Let's look at that goddamn that logic. I'm gonna create a lightweight, highly destructive, highly deadly weapon to end war. I'm gonna create death to end death. What? That's like some type of that's what do you call that? Like that's some type of insanity.
To be fair, the
Self
AK is
code.
better though for war. The AK is a lot better.
People say that. I've been shot at with an AK, and the guy missed me, and it put holes in the ground right by where my head was that were bigger than my hand, and I got gigantic hands. This shit ain't no joke. All right, did you land your plane? Looks determined.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me speak. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We're gonna go to Rob the Whip, and the Black got last words.
What's going on, yo?
What's up, brother?
Man, God is great. Life is good. Um, a lot of the stuff that you guys are hitting on focuses around the lack of discipline, self-discipline. And I think when you give people that free will ideology, to them, it makes mankind seem like they're going against the grain of whatever the common laws of nature or the common laws of God or the common laws of the society that we're living in. So, these people that you guys are hitting on all had that one common thing. Don't do what should be done, do what you want to do. And when you have that ideology, and chaos ensues.
Well, let me
Um,
interrupt you right quick to drive that point home, guys. What he just said, basically, if I could paraphrase him, is "Do what thou wilt." Look that shit up on Google and tell me what you see. Hit images, I dare you. Go ahead, bro.
that's all the Satanism ideology. We're not gonna get on that, but at least I'm not. I'll let you hit on that if you want. That's a whole nother topic. But getting back as far as the what European culture what we miss, what I miss, I would say Italian because I like Italian food, but Then again, I can't say that because real Italian food sucks. American Italian food is better.
Preach.
Yeah. Um, I would say Germans because of the super highways and some of the other things that they came up with that we utilize today. Um, what else? Uh, kind of I could hit in there. It's a whole bunch of other stuff, but those are only two that come to mind right now. I'm like in and out of sleep, falling asleep, but I'm gonna land my plane with that. Oh yeah, yeah, Sigmund Freud. Yeah, that dude was a nutcase. He stayed high on most of his stuff. So anytime you're dealing with drug addicts and freaks, a freaky ass drug addict, man, you get what you get. So
I
That
I
can't
land my
even
plane with that.
imagine him doing anything except talking about crazy sex that he had with his niece. Well, they said he
my
was doing
God.
something with his niece. I saw another thing, also glamorizing crime, death, another thing that they do to get you dead. And feminism leads to you having less children, and so it leads to the end of humanity. All of these things basically make you either die directly or you don't have children, which ends humanity.
In death, yes.
It's all death. It's a death cult.
Which is why it's a death cult. Yes, yes, ma'am. That's why I kind of brought up, and Sotar caught it. That's why I brought up Thanos, because it's tied in. That's what it's about. Thanos was Mephistopheles and Faust. Faust, yeah, all things. Some pissant, sorry ass, I love you, I'm trying to help you story, which leads in your death. It would be better if everybody dies because the environment will be safer or some crazy shit like that. Now, with that fact pattern, apply that to certain millionaires and billionaires who have populate ideas of population control, and you'll start seeing what this game is all about. Do what thou wiltst. You understand me? The black, talk to us.
What's going on, Professor? Warning everybody else in the space. Uh, I want to add to the part where Warning was saying that they brought cocaine into our communities and like drugged the artists and the singers during that time. Like, if you really look like at the history of drugs in America, they that's what they've been doing the whole time with the heroin epidemic and them framing a lot of black artists that was going against the grain and with cocaine, like she said, and during it what's funny, LSD made funk music with George Clinton because he was dealing with the MK Ultra project. So and we all know that the government came up with the formula for crack and put that in our community. So it just shows how they use these different type of war tactics against our people. And but at the same time, for some reason we end up making some good music out of it.
That was some badass music to be LSD fused.
No cap. Jimmy
like
Jimi Hendrix
like
too.
Damn,
for
the
real, for
bass
real.
lines.
And look, what what was crazy because James Brown he was a no drug, he had a no drug policy, and how he ended up slipping towards that way was because of Boosie Collins and them putting LSD in their drinks because they couldn't actually just get high. So after that he ended up going downhill and stuff because they was his band during that time he had stopped the Detroit the ride in Boston, and that's when the government started following him, and somehow Al Sharpton became his protege, which was like you said in previous spaces, he was the buck. You know what I'm saying? The preacher buck.
Well, something interesting. You said they bringing the drugs in. I have my daddy made sacrifices that maybe I thank God that he did work below his degree to get it. Work at a gas station to put me and my little sister through a very rich high school because my life was in danger in the hood. and a street gang was trying to kill me because one of their girlfriends was liking on me. I didn't know shit. She said I was cute. Fuck, what I'm supposed to do? But I went to a really wealthy high school because dad got an apartment in a rich neighborhood and sent us there. But long story, me bringing that up is um damn, I lost my point. It was such a good point. I lost it. Let me go to original bio to come back to me. Go ahead, original blood. Excuse me.
Hey, greetings. I just woke up and I was listening to this, and you're talking about these degenerate and crazy Europeans. Professor, have you ever heard of this? It was a doctoral thesis. I think it came out around maybe 2015 or somewhere around in there. But it was entitled "In Search of Purity: Popular Eugenics and Radical Uplift uh, of New Negroes from 1915 to 1935." And this sister, she documents how, and see, and again, see, the NAACP now can't understand why we rebuke them to the fullest. It was the NAACP, um, I think the Urban League too, but it was Du Bois and what's his name, Booker Washington, Mary McLeod Bethune. They were working with these sick Europeans, trying to say that certain social economic level of black people shouldn't be having children, that it would bring down the so-called educated black people. I mean, it is sick. And I
W
don't know.
W W Du Bois, who's my brother, fucked us up so bad. I need to look at Mary McLeod Bethune. I went to her school in D.C. when I lived with my
Uh-huh.
grandmother. I'm gonna look into her, but I never thought about her story.
They're just following the whole Nazi program. Even Hitler
Yep.
admitted that Germans were not pure and said that the Nordics were, even though they're not, but whatever. He said they needed to Nordic themselves up, in essence, to become pure and blonde, and he was pushing that. So he was doing it another way. Instead of encouraging people not to have children, he was just killing everybody who wasn't, people who were disabled, gay, or whatever he didn't like, and just getting rid of them. So they're just trying to carry on this again, all of these things, whether you be on the one side of the Holocaust or on the other, they brought all this garbage of that Holocaust on both sides over here and jacked everybody up.
Yes.
Facts.
Yes.
Facts.
But I
Yeah,
just,
bro.
yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because, like I said, these people, and see, and everybody know who owns and controls the NAACP, and see, and when you look at it and see a lot of these alleged black organization, I'll say, they don't fund themselves, and they know that we don't trust them. So they take this money from the enemy, and they try to get us to go down this path of destruction, which is it. And it is amazing that our people were able to survive, because it just shows exactly that our ancestors or whatever has been watching out for us, because their whole, like you said earlier, their whole issue when it comes to us is go out on a seek and destroy mission to kill us. I
Man,
mean,
I mean, you look at who know we talk about the NAACP. I done hit y'all with scholarship on how Du Bois helped to form the NAACP in diametric opposition of our own grassroots movements. Like that shit, Dr. Howard Zinn says that whites had the most of the leadership in the NAACP, probably still do, allegedly. Well, let's talk about the Urban League. What are the Urban League supposed to do? Isn't it supposed to help, poor black people? Isn't that what it's about?
yeah,
So why don't people talk about Mark Morial, the leader on the Urban League, posing with that big old fancy ring on his finger? Like, why are you up there posing with a multi-thousand-dollar diamond ring when you're supposed to be serving poor folk? It's insane. It's almost like he was laughing at us,
yeah.
you
It's
know.
like they do it to your face, and then and they turn around and say, "Well, what you gonna do about it?" Now with this,
Right.
with this last election cycle, they saw what we did about it. and now they're still curring around trying to figure out how are we going to put how are we going to get these Negroes back to voting the way we need them to vote. And I've been putting when I respond to some of their stupidity, and I respond by saying no vote 2026 because see the election the midterms will be here before we know it, and I think if we start sending them that message, that's going to put them shaking in their boots even more. But I just want to share that. I have to find the exact. I have to find the exact name of it. But it's something about in search of purity, popular eugenics, and racial uplift among new Negroes. This went on from 1915 to 1935, and it just shows how callous. It just shows how callous some of our own people will look at us, and
Mm-hmm.
they will look at us. It's kind of like what's the name of the book? Uh, It's Dr. Jacob Carruthers, Intellectual Warfare, I think it is.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and he talked about this degenerate dummy, Cornell West, because Cornell and Henry, they was going around attacking our black scholars back in the 90s for the white folks, for the enemy. But he talked about how Cornell was basing, us off this Calvinism garbage. It's a section of Christianity that some dumb below stupid white boy created or whatever, and that's what he was basing up.
Yeah, yeah. Calvinism is out of Calvin believed that God sent the white race here. I think I'm correct with this. Sent the white race here to oversee the inferior races.
Yeah,
Just madness.
and this below stupid dumb fool Cornell West, he believed in that garbage. I mean, it shows. See, now they're wondering why we are rebuking them the way that we are. And because we see that if we follow them, all we're doing is agreeing to agreeing to death when we are seeking life.
It's a death cult.
That's why Steve Coakley didn't like him.
Yes, yes. But
You
I
mean
just
the
want
one that was running for president, Cornel West?
yeah, he was
Yeah,
The
running.
that's
one
why I
with
ain't
the
trust him.
the one with the five white wives?
Oh God, I know it's five.
Oh Lord, Lord, Lord.
Lonnie.
He's dedicated to it, I'll tell you that. You
God damn Lonnie.
you got to give him
Yeah.
credit for being dedicated. I'ma get me one of them women to cooperate.
hmm But I just want to share that with you. When I tuned in and heard the topic, I just want to share that because that's something. It really fits into this and how some of our own people have been co-opted into this garbage. And remember, don't forget about what these savages did to our beautiful queen sister, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. I tell you,
Right.
what they did to her, they should still be just being killed over and over. I mean, that beautiful sister and what she did for us. I mean, I can never allow
Her and
anyone to
Dr.
say
Precious
anything bad about her.
Predecessor.
They put her in jail and tried to kill her.
Yes. And
Yeah, and God knows what else they did to her.
oh, they
You know what I'm saying?
they gave her without her parents or her consent, they gave her a hysterectomy at like I think it was 12 or 13. See,
Jesus, I didn't know that.
yes,
It was like
What?
it was
yes.
13.
Her mother had like a lot of children, and so they didn't want her to do what her mother did. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when you read, it makes you cry as to what they did to this beautiful black woman. It makes you cry. But
Oh, that makes I never knew that, but that makes sense now. That was her fire. That was it.
yeah, but I'm gonna land with that. But I just want to share that because see, and if you notice now in Du Bois, what's that book? And I'm gonna land on this.
The souls of black
Souls of
folk.
Black Folks. Now you know that in the original printing, he identified a certain group of people that were that was taking advantage of the after Reconstruction here in the South. And so what happened is that group of people that own and controls the NAACP, they convinced him, or he just went along with it. He changed the name from them, who was taking advantage in the South, and they changed that word to it's a three-letter word. They changed that word to immigrants. So we was reading that online when they re-released the book in its original printing. And so when the narrator was reading online, and this one person said, "Hey, my book says immigrant. It doesn't identify those people." He said, "Well, you got the wrong book. This is the original printing," and they convinced him to change change the word from them to immigrants, so you would think that some immigrants came here from somewhere and they was exploiting the South, and it had always been them and our land.
Yeah, he got removed from the NAACP after that book.
Yeah,
What yeah, what the thing is, yeah, and the book was Redemption. That makes perfect sense. Like, that's what I was saying about my brother. On when I knew I was going to do a documentary and write a book on him, I flew to Ghana and made my piece at his grave, because I was trained as a child to, to look up to the talented tenth ideology. I found out it was wrong, but you can't make a deal with the devil. It's funny how all this goes back to the story of, you know, uh, the story of Lucifer. It is interesting, isn't it? Um, Dr. W. Du Bois had good intentions, but he made a deal with the devil. And his what Dr. W. Du Bois thought he was going to do was, once he got, s- promoted that talented 10th ideology, he was going to write about it, tell about it, and fight it. But by then, they had him. So, long story short, when they start offing people in the black community, W. Du Bois took his wife and moved to Ghana. He ran back to Ghana. So W. Du Bois was a Pan Africanist, a communist, and a traitor. So anyway, he meant well, for whatever that's worth. I remember what I was going to say earlier. Uh, when I went to that fancy high school, I met some Caucasian friends, some of which were, I'm not going to call them one percenters, but at least 10 percenters. Old antebellum slave money, I would find out later on. I didn't know at the time. Well, one of these colleagues of mine, when we turned 30, got a job. Now, he has no degree, didn't finish college, but got this job working for G4, the jet company, the ones that the famous people fly. And he had some top administrative position, and I would probably need an MBA from Brown or something. And anyway, he got this job, and we were all going to throw him a party and get him some beer and whatnot. We're waiting for him, and the his office is in a hangar, and I hear a jet engine just spinning, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And a jet, a real fancy ass jet, beautiful jet, pulls up in the office, like, no shit, in the hangar, and the engine powers down, and the ramp comes down. This is in 2010. The ramp comes down, and a bunch of they were white males, ages 18, if I had to guess, 18 to 37, maybe 40ish, early 40s. They all had on suits and sunglasses, expensive suits, nice sunglasses, and every last one of them had a big old duffel bag full of something. Now, whatever it was, it looked like it could have been some type of powder or blankets. It wasn't a gun, but they all had duffel bags, and they came walking off that plane. About nine of them came off that plane, and I'm watching them. You know what? I'm waiting for them to go through TSA. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm waiting to happen. And then I noticed all of a sudden there ain't no TSA in that hangar. They walked out that jet, out the front door, jumped in two Suburbans, and drove off. And from that point on in my life, I knew that this whole war on drugs was some bullshit. Cause the drugs coming straight to the airport, and black dudes don't own no planes. You understand what I'm saying? Shit's a joke. We're gonna go. Final words go to the black.
Hey, Professor, though, why are you pocket watching? You were pocket watching Mark Mariel with the watch, and now these white dudes. You sound like these tethers on Tariq.
Oh
I just had to
Lord,
make that joke. I had to make that joke. I'm sorry, I had
pocket
to make that
watch.
joke.
No, no, no,
No,
no, no.
you about to get a conversation started
Get
that we
me.
weren't gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, we were, and believe it or not, bro, Sotar, we were gonna talk about pocket watching for a whole nother space, but we gonna say that. I don't want to open up that. But since you brought up Mark Mariel, I just remember back in the day, the black people in Birmingham, like when I was in law school, a lot of the black attorneys would be like, "Why?" I'm quoting them. They say, "Why this damn fool up here posing with a ring? He would have like a brand new diamond ring, thousand real nice big old fat rock on his hand. Now, why he up here posing with a? He's supposed to be representing this lawyer I knew. She said he represents the least of these. Why is he posing with a big old fancy ring? And I remember thinking when I was a second year law student, like he's doing that to say, you know, that's really like a kiss my ass. You know what I'm saying? It's poor taste. It's ignorant. And in my opinion, I think that was a kiss my ass. I'm gonna come up here with a $30,000 ring on y'all asses. And that's the problem. He's at talented 10th bullshit. Sellout bullshit. Anyway, the black, you got final words, bro.
Yeah, I just want to add that it's a lot of documentaries about our people, and I respect the older generation before this new old generation, because at least that older generation, when they got old as fuck, they told the truth on the bullshit that they did. This new generation, they sticking to their guns and taking shit to their grave. So all this history that we dig up and put together, it's a must. So we'll know who was the real traitors back then, and middleman and culprits that helped, you know what I'm saying, dismantle a lot of movements that was important to us. Because at the end of the day, these advancements that we had throughout the different eras, we always had some co-conspirators that didn't like us, and or they just wanted to hinder us because they had some type of hatred based off of their family. And yeah, it's time for us to continue to clean house. And hey, I feel bad because if y'all ain't found out, the little goody foods that's really Jamaican owned instead of Black American owned. That shit hurt my heart because I've been out here cussing people out all last year, telling them, yeah, support black businesses, and these folks is Jamaican and shit. So yeah, it's time for us to really just do our fine time tuning and vet these people before we spend our dollar with these folks, or know what I'm saying, just spend our energy with these people, because all they all are vampires and pretenders.
I hit the mute button, y'all. No cap. This we're about to wrap up the space. I really enjoyed y'all. This was actually very academic. I learned a lot. Wani, like I'm gonna have to hear that. Nikki, let me know when the recording's up because I'm gonna have to hear what Wani was
I'm gonna
saying.
post it up tomorrow. I'm gonna post it tomorrow.
Wani was spitting some jewels in the beginning, man.
Yeah,
Man,
people messaging me in the back talking about how good of a space it was. Hilarious.
wow. Yeah, Wani, I appreciate it. Like I sat back and was taking some notes on that one. And Wani, you identify something very shit. I'm gonna say a little dangerous. I think we got a source of where all this stuff is coming from, and I'm gonna let y'all listen to the replay to see what that source is. And I'm gonna do some research to verify that. That's kind of a little scary, but we need to know. Rob the Whip, you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, bro. I hit you in your box with some information. We need to talk because I was half asleep when you hit me up when I got on the last time, so I forgot what I really wanted to say. Um, Again, I'm a mission planner, man, by trade, and a lot of stuff is coming down that we as a people we really need to get ready for, and we need to expedite what we're trying to do with this reparations thing. And what I mean by that, and I don't know if you guys have heard, Elon Musk, he's about to be a trillionaire, and they're saying by 2027. Having said that,
Wow.
he's got to deal with the with Trump. I guess he's bringing his fellow Afrikaners here as refugees. It's approximately, I think it was like 7,000 of them, something like that, are going to be coming to this space. Now, why is that? Could that be an issue with us because they come with that mindset, that Nazi mindset? I'm not
Why
saying
can't
all
they
of them.
just, why do they need to be up under us though?
Well, we're going to have to deal with them. They're going to want to. Some of us, sometimes, our country is our country, and there's going to be
Hmm.
times where we're going to be running into these people. And the thing is, they're going to have financial backing. So what do I mean? We need to get ourselves in a position where we are able to um, build, and the only thing that comes with is finances. So this reparations movement needs to really be expedited. I sent the schedule to you, Professor, for the UN, and with the things they're hitting on all year. They put out the yearly schedule. You can get on there and state your grievances. They have humanitarian ones like every 2 months or something like that, where they discuss humanitarian issues and with other countries, and we can get ours on there. There's a lot coming down, man. We're not ready for it, and I just watch things, kind
They're
of look
no
at the
different.
from an
They're
intelligence
no different.
perspective. I think is to trust in God and watch everybody else. So
Okay, they're no different than Ukrainians in terms of being obnoxious. Ukrainians are worse than them.
yeah, but they don't
That's
have
actually that's a good point.
What are they going to
that
do?
financial
Come over
backing.
here? Get
The
they
financial
can't
backing is
do.
what I'm concerned about. It's not so much what they're going to do to us as a
They're
people,
coming in on a refugee program. What are they going to do?
but again, they have his
Beat us
financial
up?
backing, and with money comes power. So
But it's not that many of
We
them.
have lots of white people that have a lot of money.
I
What
understand. I'm
is
not
that?
saying all of them. They might not even be a threat. I'm just looking at the way my mind thinks. Is I look at the possibilities. I'm not really going. I'm not comfortable talking about this like on the air like that. But there are so many things that can go south quickly because I'm looking at the pulse of the community now. Because um, with the incident that happened in Cincinnati, it's like a lot of these guys now have batteries in their back, and you start looking at why nationwide, and this it just can get really bad if we don't kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And
The average white man is 50 years old. They don't want to have a race riot in this country.
I'm not saying so much a race right, but things I don't know. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about a lot of this right like on air. Professor, I gave you my number in your box. I gave you that information. And then, maybe me and you can politic. I got some other brothers that's in the same community as myself. I'm not by myself at all. We kind of got a I got a tight crew, all military or prior military. But yeah, that's all I got to say. And it was, oh yeah, as far as the black bully you guys were talking about, I mean, that's a psyop as well. They were set up to watch the average black male and female and try to keep us in our positions. Anything that goes against the grain, I mean, they just, they they align themselves with the people with deeper pockets in order to stay in a position of power and financial dominance over us. So the black ballet, I mean, that would be a great topic to talk on one day, Professor. I'm quite sure you can run a lap with everybody with that one. I enjoy your educational stuff, man. And with that, I land my plane.
White people, so I get all the fear mongering and stuff, and it's my job to calm the fears because white people have been doing stuff behind the scenes with trillions of dollars for centuries. So it's no different. If they want to bring a bunch of ignorant white trash over here, when have they not brought a bunch of ignorant white trash over here? When did they bring any classy white people that weren't racist? I'm waiting. When? They've always been lice supremacists coming over here the whole
You
time.
said lice supremacists?
I think
Lice?
I did.
Okay.
I think I did. Lice supremacists have always been coming over here with backing, without backing, getting jobs they shouldn't have, looking like idiots, trying to be better than us. And it doesn't matter how much money they have, they've been having more money. There's whole families going against us on both sides. On both sides. They're funded, that US aid is funded to kill us. That whole thing is to kill us, to do surgeries on transgender mice to make sure every immigrant pours over from South America, from Mexico, from anywhere. They're paying these people to come over here. So we've been getting it on the left side and we've been getting it on the right side. And we're not the only ones getting it either. Regular white people are getting it too. They're getting it too. So We're in good company because everybody is getting it. As you saw that list I saw, these people have been pushing all kinds of foreigners have been pushing all kinds of ideologies on us the whole time, and everything they push is deadly. We just have to maneuver around it. We just have to be smart. Knowing is the vaccination. Knowing about it, knowing that they're trying to push these death cult ideologies on you is the vaccination. Everything that they want to do is to shorten your life. The food they talk about, the drinking, the drugs, glamorizing crime, everything is to take you off the planet when you may not want to go at that point. So just be aware. That's it. I'm not scared of anything. Anybody immigrating over here, it's just a bunch of trash. If they want to square up, we can square up. Because we're not Africans, so they better make sure they know which brand they're playing with. We're not Africans. You're not going to slap us around and call us kafer.
No
So
cap.
that's not going to happen. So there's nothing they can do.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I enjoyed y'all. We will continue. We will have another space tomorrow. Join us at 9:30 to 9:35, 9:45 Eastern, where we will have another space. Wanted, did you have any last words?
Night.
Okay, Nikki, you had any last words, love?
Good night.
Oh man, I really enjoyed y'all, and I look forward to listening to these replays, which you can find on Nick of the God's YouTube space. Again, if you want a copy of my book, look at Our Story Publications in the Jumbotron. Put $25. Put your full address and full name